Hello, friends. Welcome. Welcome to our session, which is what is this episode 143, right, Lou?
That's right, 143.
I cannot believe how fast these things are going. Um, this
By
particular
the way,
chapter
we
that,
just passed this past week, and I know we're a little bit delayed. These episodes come out a week or so after we tape them, but we just passed 20,000 listens on podcasts as well. So
20,000 listens. Oh, my
20,000
goodness.
listens, yes.
Wow.
43
That's-
countries, maybe more. Last I checked, 43 countries. You guys have been very responsive to us, and we appreciate it. And head on over to Gita Memoirs of a Psychiatrist on Facebook. Send us a message too. The message activity is picked up too. So
Very nice. Thank you, Lou. Thanks for saying that.
we love it when you talk to us. Yeah.
So this, Lou, I think you're going to have a good time here. I love this particular chapter, chapter 14. It talks of gunas, and each one of us has three gunas, and sattva, rajas, and tamas. Not just us as human beings having three gunas, but basically everything in this world has the three gunas. And it is so fascinating when you look at it, because I have not seen these three gunas mentioned anywhere else, not in other scriptures, religions, philosophies, or anything. We generally tend to say this is good or this is bad. That's all. We just distinguish good and bad, or positive and negative. But gunas, when you really understand them, you say, wow, how come I didn't know about this before? So be prepared. It's like, when somebody tells me something is a really good movie, somebody I trust, or a good book, I can't wait to get into it because I trust that person's recommendations. And I say, I can't wait to see this movie or book because of that. So this chapter 14, these three gunas, my friends, you will find it fascinating.
Excellent.
And one suggestion is that, when I first started listening about sattva, rajas, and tamas, I should have made notes all along from every lecture, because each time you find a new something or the other that has sattva, rajas, and tamas. So I should have made notes, because there's so much here and you'll not find it anywhere else except in the scriptures of the Upanishads and the Gita. So if you make notes, you'll find something that very few people have. So let's get into it. As I said, if you don't know anything about the gunas, you're going to say everything is either good or bad, positive or negative. But there are three gunas. Those are sattva, rajas, and tamas. And what exactly does that mean? What does it refer to? Let's start with tamas. Tamas is basically three eyes. Each one of us looks at the three eyes: indolence, ignorance, and inaction. But there's a lot more. So somebody who's basically, just lazy, doesn't want to do anything, wakes up late, everything is very sluggish, no action, no intelligence to think of things, just sit there, have beer all day, no shower, dirty, filthy, living in a horrible environment, strewn with beer bottles and garbage. You get the picture, right?
Yes.
That is tamas. Rajas, on the other hand, is full of activity and energy for doing things, but not for like charity or good things. Rajas is activity and energy to acquire, to procure, to enjoy what you have, not to give up. Greed, again and again, for the fruit of the action, whatever the fruit is, the reward. This person wants to do rajas because he wants that action so that he gets the fruit. Do, act,
Right.
run, fly, travel, make money. That's rajas. Sattva, the third and highest quality, is where everything is pure. Everything is very calm, peaceful, equanimous, and more spiritual. So that's sattva. Everything is good and it's the correct path. So each one of us has these three qualities within us. Guna, each one of us has these three qualities within us: sattva, rajas, and tamas. We talked for the whole of chapter 13, we talked about the combination of matter and life, spirit, or Atman within us. What did we say? Just as a quick reminder, we have a body, we have a subtle body, a gross body, and that without life or consciousness into it, that body is dead. It's only when Brahman, Atman, God, life, brings it to life, then that body, that matter, becomes a being. So that body, that field, is known as kshetra or prakriti or matter. That matter is what has those three qualities. Purusha, spirit, life, consciousness, God does not have gunas. Only matter, prakriti, has those three gunas. And the whole world is made up of prakriti. So essentially, the whole world is made up of these three gunas. Each one of us has these three qualities in us. Now, when you look at somebody, you see him being tamasic, beer bottles all around, dirty environment, not proper. You say, oh, he's tamasic. You look at somebody else and you say, oh, that's me. I'm sattvic or I'm rajasic. I'm definite. Now, majority of us, by the way, are rajasic. Majority of us, the major quality within each one of us is rajas, which is action oriented, run, 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 do, acquire, acquire, acquire. That's the majority. But we also tend to show tamasic qualities, especially late in the evening. By the way, the day is also divided into sattva, rajas, and tamas.
Oh, interesting.
Early in the morning, prior to sunrise, it is a sattvic time. So, sattvic time, you get up early in the morning, like 2 hours before sunrise, and you start to read. If you first time you wake up, you're going to feel very sleepy. But if you get used to it, you wake up in the morning, you feel full of energy to do more sattvic kind of things. That's the time you can sit down. Your concentration is 100% laser focus. It's not running all over the place. That's a sattvic time, good time. Good time to do reflection, manana, spirituality, etc. And I know this, I've said this before, that when the sun starts rising through these windows, as I start to see the sunlight coming in, my mind starts to think of who do I have to call, which email do I have to look at, what do I have to do? I get up, I say, get my clothes ready, get my this ready, get my that ready. So Rajas is starting at that time. From sunrise to about sunset, a little before sunset, it's all action oriented, all Rajas. After sunset, you don't feel like doing any spiritual studies. You don't feel like doing any action-oriented thing. You want to just put your feet up, relax, watch TV, talk to your family, that's tamas. So throughout the day, each one of us has these qualities. But as you notice, the majority of the day goes in rajasic activities. So we each have each quality within us. But we tend to gravitate towards people that are like us. We tend to gravitate towards environment like what we are suited to. So people like us. So sattvic people generally tend to go towards other people who are similar. Spiritual people tend to go to spiritual companionship and who like that kind of thing. A spiritual person doesn't like person that is full of loud noise and abuse and bad language and curse words and stuff like that. By the way, sattva doesn't get along with rajas too well. Rajas doesn't get along with tamas too well. Tamas doesn't get along with sattva too well. So all three of them, although they're within us and within the world in a balance, as long as they're in a balance, the world goes on. And it doesn't like one another. So they don't exist at the same time. They don't coexist.
Right.
When one starts, the other drops off. So when the sattvic period, so for instance, casinos between 4 a.m. and 6 a.m. do not serve any alcohol because there's nobody there to drink. If you offer him a drink, not a pure alcoholic. A pure alcoholic will drink no matter what time you give him alcohol. Sure. But the majority of people, you say first thing in the morning when he wakes up for breakfast, would you like a drink? Majority of people are going to say, no, I don't really feel like it, thanks. How about at 4 o'clock in the morning? Nah, definitely not. 4 to 6, the casinos close down for them to do the vacuuming, etc. After sunset, Everybody says, a drink? Sure, give me two.
Yes.
So after sunset, when it's tamasic time, is when they like that. So you go, spiritual people tend to go to libraries, nature, seashore, forests, greenery, mountains, seashore, etc. Rajasic people tend to gravitate towards high stress environment where there's money, action, Wall Street, corporations that make a lot of money. Now, that doesn't mean, don't forget, that we are all a mixture of all these people. Tamasic people go to bars and gambling dens and casinos and drug environments, etc., parties, loud noises, nightclubs. Now, each one of these also has a little bit of the quality of something else. So let's say in high stress Wall Street environment, Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, in India, Ratan Tata. These are people who are among the richest people in the world, and yet they're extremely sattvic. So if you look at somebody like Warren Buffett, very sattvic person. He lives in a very modest home, doesn't want to keep acquiring. In fact, he's recommending that people give their money away. So, last thing I will say before we move on is that we've talked about dwandwas. Dwandwas means opposites. So, heat and cold, pain and pleasure, air conditioning versus hot air, sorrow versus joy. These are coexist. Everything in this world has an opposite.
Right.
In order to enjoy one, you have to despise the opposite. So, for instance, if I have an air conditioner on over here, because it's starting to get hot, right, Lou, over here?
Yes.
That's why I'm having my t-shirt on instead of my formal shirt. When it gets hot outside, you really enjoy the air conditioning inside. If it weren't hot, you wouldn't enjoy the air conditioning. If it was freezing outside, as we just finished a nice cold winter, you wouldn't like air conditioning, you would like heat inside the house. If you didn't have sorrow, you wouldn't know the pleasure of joy. It's only when you have sorrow, then you understand what joy is.
Well,
So
here in New England, 60 degrees in February and 60 degrees in July are two different things altogether.
yes, true.
Temperature, but it's about your surroundings, and it's about the balance, right?
That's right. It's about the balance. So now quickly, let's talk about sattva, rajas, and tamas. Just a thumbnail kind of speech, okay? So which, just take it, and if you need to make notes, because this is going to be extremely valuable for you. Sattva. Sattva is clean, cleanliness, principled, everything is done right, don't break the laws, you mix with good company people like yourself, spiritual, you're centered on the right path, you don't deviate, you wake up early in the morning, you eat good foods. And then we'll talk about what are sattvic foods, rajasic foods, and tamasic foods. What that means is you eat rajasic foods, it actually generates, and the Ayurveda has given great descriptions of what is rajasic food, what is tamasic food, and what is sattvic food. This sattvic person eats sattvic foods, wakes up early in the morning, tends to hang out in nature, in the forest, seashore, good places, as opposed to nightclubs and things. He does mantra, meditation. He's dedicated, whatever he does, charity or good karmas, he's dedicated to that. He's detached from action-oriented kind of things. He's very cool, calm, collected, but does his actions without being attached to the fruit. His actions are clear. If he tells you what to do and he's the leader, his directions to you to do this will be extremely clear. There's no deviation from understanding what he's talking about. He is dexterous. Whatever he does is pure, clean, and dexterous. He's perfectionist in so many ways without being obsessive or compulsive about it. He does not make mistakes because his intellect is very clear. His emotions are pure, love, fondness, good intentions. His intellect is clear, and his decisions, whatever he decides, is clear. When he walks into a room, in fact, some people say sattvic people have a glow around them, like an aura.
Right.
Now comes rajas. Rajasic people are attached to action. They're bound by their action. They're looking for the fruit. They're complete unrest. They have to go, 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 move, 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 act, act, act all the time. They always want more and more to acquire, to enjoy, and to hold on to what they have. They have a greed for more. They have uncontrolled desires. They're constantly involved in feverish activity. Do, do, do. Act, act, act. It's like fire. The Upanishads say desires, especially of a rajasic person, are like wood in a fire. It's never enough. You keep giving it more fuel and it keeps demanding more. Uses up what you gave it, burns it, and says, okay, now more. For instance, a person who is rajasic will say, I don't have time to study or meditate. I have to do, do, do. And you say, you don't have time? No, I'm very busy. Oh, listen, by the way, I have a new deal for you. It can generate a lot of money. Oh, yeah? Let me sit down and I have time for that. I want to hear what you have to say. It's like my grandchildren. I'm full. I don't want to eat anymore. You have to. No, I don't want to eat. I'm full. I'm really full. Okay, how about this large piece of cake with dessert? Oh, yes, I have room for that. So rajasic people don't have time to study or meditate. They have to keep going, going, going. The other example is in terms of greed. Now, don't get me wrong here. Every one of us has rajas. So this example I'm going to give you, if you're the person I'm talking about, don't feel bad because we each have this. This friend of mine, extremely wealthy, had built a house and maybe cost him $1 million to build it or whatever it was. He said, I want to sell it, build a bigger house or get a bigger house. And he asked around to different realtors and they said, if you get 4 million, you'll be lucky for this.
Yeah.
3.5, 3 million is probably the right price. But ask for 4, people will bargain you down. After a lot of act, think, obsess about the price, he finally put it on the market for 4 million. And the first person that came to look at his house, had just won a mega lottery. He came into a lot of many millions. And he had never seen this kind of money before. And he looked at the house and he says, how much? 4 million? I'll pay you 4 million. Now, a sattvic person would have said, this is good. Yeah. I had expected 3.5 to 3 million. I'll take it. 4 million, sure. Here's a deal. Rajasic person says, maybe I undersold it.
I'm not going to take the first offer, right?
I'm not going to take the first offer. He took it off the market. He took it off the market thinking that he's asking too little. Yeah. Then he put it back on and he never got even the 4 million after that.
Right.
So it's the same sort of thing. You have a car, somebody tells you it's worth, so much money, and you put it on the market, somebody comes to buy. You say, nah, I want a little bit more. That's rajas. So don't mind if you're listening to this and this sounds like you, because each one of us has this particular quality of rajas, of greed, of wanting more. Another example is beautiful woman throughout her teenage years or her 20s. You say, wow, she's going to really snare a wonderful man. Yeah. But then she gets to be in her 40s and she's not married. And you say, what happened here? The reason is because she was so rajasic that any man that she came across, she said, I can do better than this. Right. It's like the guy selling the house. I can do better than this. I will wait until all opportunities pass him or her by. Handsome men, same thing. So when do you say it's enough with rajas? You keep doing, and there's no end to it. So tamas, sorry if I'm going beyond my time, Lou.
No, you're fine. Go ahead.
Tamas is ignorance. You're attached to the ignorance. It is bound. You are bound through your ignorance. You don't know. Tamasic people don't know many things, but they don't care. They're okay with it. These are what are typically we term rednecks, right? As a slang here in the United States. Am I right, Lou? Rednecks?
Yeah, it kind of works, yeah.
Sorry, I don't mean to offend anybody, but that's the conception I have of rednecks, where they just sit around and drink beer, and maybe that's a wrong connotation, and I apologize if that's the case. but they just drink. They just don't know so many things, and they don't care. They're prejudiced. They have negative feelings towards other people. They're reckless. They drive fast, and they don't care about getting into an accident or somebody else getting hurt. They're heedless, uncaring. They try drugs. They try alcohol. They don't study for exams if there's an exam coming up. They don't really care about other people and their feelings or what happens to them. They take loans that they cannot handle. They use credit cards beyond their limit. They eat garbage food. They eat, when I say garbage food, food which is tamasic. We can talk about what tamasic garbage food is.
Right.
There's indolence. There's ignorance. These are the I's I talked about. There's inertia. There's inaction. Foul emotions, dull intellect, unclear decisions. So they want to tell you what to do. Their decisions to tell you, their explanations are so unclear, you don't understand exactly what they've asked for. They give up their obligations. They don't follow through. They're involved in gossip, useless conversation, affairs, scandals. In the in the United Kingdom, people are obsessed by the royal family. To say, why? What are you obsessed about? They're human beings just like us. In the US, for a while, it was like Kim Kardashian. Everybody was obsessed with Kim Kardashian or Michael Jackson or whatever. In India, it is the Bollywood film actors. These people obsessed with other people's affairs, scandals. They use bad language. They abuse the law and order, police. They're anti-police, and they help criminals if they're not criminals themselves. So this is tamas, rajas, and sattva. I gave you just a thumbnail sketch, my friends. This is, to me, I find it very, very fascinating. And you just wait till you hear everything else that goes with it. I hope you will find it as interesting as I find it. What do you say, Lou?
The one thing I wanted to ask about here that was interesting, and I'm sure we're going to dive into this, is you were talking about people have these qualities, but everything has these qualities. When you were talking about rajas and rajasic qualities, what I was thinking in my mind was that's your mind. Your mind, that's if you're living within your mind so much, that's what the mind is designed to do. That's what it wants. That's what it generates. It generates action for result, right? The mind has a very rajasic quality.
Yeah, so the mind has desires, and those desires are the cause of your actions.
Yeah.
So, right, a thought, desire, action. Your actions are a direct result of your desires. A person that is very, very desires and action are two characteristics of rajasic people. So you're right, desires and thoughts arise in the mind. And
the mind is the factory of that, isn't it? The mind is constantly telling you, do this and we'll get this, do this and we'll get this.
Absolutely. So yes, rajasic people, their mind is constantly active. I used to know a guy who was on the board of a bank that I was on the board of also. And he was extremely wealthy, no children. And he said to me once, he says, my mind, he says, I think all the time about money. He says, I think of nothing else but money, money, money all the time. I felt sorry for him. He had so much, but it's never enough. And that's rajas also.
Yes.
So friends, next time we're going to be doing chapter 14, verse 1, 2, 3, and 4. The first two are basically just, again, an introduction, but verse 3 and 4, you will find absolutely fascinating because it talks of, as in other religions, where you say God is the Father, this is where it comes from. These verses from the Upanishads are many thousands of years old, way before any other religion. And this is where the concept of Father and giving birth to the world comes. I hope you join us next time for episode, what is it, 144?
144 is next, yes.
Next, and episode 144, we're going to be talking about the Father, how the God became known as the Father. So thank you very much for joining us, and we'll see you next time.